It can be super intimidating when we're taking a client from a classic lash service into a volume lash service. Whether we're taking over someone else's work or we're filling over our own classic set. Again, it can be a little bit intimidating. So this video is meant to answer any questions that we may have on the transition from classics to volume. By the end of this video, hopefully all of your questions that you may have about transitioning from a classic to a volume service will be answered. And if they're not, go ahead, comment below. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have. So first, I'm gonna run through some common questions that we get here at Lost Artistry. And then I'm going to actually take a client, a real life client, from a classic to a volume set. First question. Whoa. Hang on. You thought I was gonna give up the good stuff right away. First, go ahead, click that like, subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell. First question. How do I price the service? If they already have classics, then they're moving to volume. Well, you really price it as you would a fill, and since you're filling them in with volume lashes, you're gonna price just as you would for any other volume fill. But you're gonna wanna explain to your client that their finished aesthetic is gonna look something like a hybrid lash set. Number 2, how will it look? Will it be okay? Absolutely, it'll look just like a standard hybrid set. Now, it's definitely important to let your client know that it's not gonna be the fullness that they're expecting for fills to come, but it's a transition period. So we're gonna achieve a beautiful hybrid type finish, and then next time their lashes are gonna be as dark and dramatic as any other volume lash set. Number 3, do I need any sort of specific map? Absolutely not. You can follow whatever map you want. There is something to keep in mind though. If your client, say, has a cat eye and now they're wanting to go to a doll eye or something like that, you may have to explain the differences in aesthetic between them, and again, explain that transition period. But when it comes to mapping out a transition from a classic to a volume, nothing specific is needed. The only thing that we want to keep in mind is balance between the eyes. And that may mean that we're going to have to remove a few lashes from, say, the left eye or the right eye if they have more classics on one side than the other. Otherwise, mapping is all up to you and your artistry. Number 4, which dimensions will I use? So that's, again, up to you and your artistry. Dimension choice is all yours. So typically when we do volume lashes in general, we use dimensions anywhere from 2D up to 6D. And when it comes to diameters, you can use 0.05, 0.07, or 0.10 diameter lashes. And now, can you use pre-fans, or does it have to be handmade volume? Again, that's up to you. Volume is volume, whether you use pre-made fans or handmade fans. When it comes to choosing the right dimension though, you might want to check out a couple more of our videos or even check out our volume mastery course. So assessing the client's natural lashes is a must, and you can absolutely mix many dimensions within the set. Say your client has a lot of weaker natural lashes, but also some strong ones. You can use higher dimensions on the lashes that are really strong and lower dimensions on the lashes that are quite weak. Of course, keeping your client's end aesthetic in mind as well. If your client wants natural lashes, you may not want to use, say, a 0.07 diameter lash with 6D fans. It might be too dramatic. You can always use dimensions that are lower. And just before we get into our actual set today, I'm really excited to do that with you guys. But before we get into it, my last question is, what if there are more lashes on one eye than the other? So those are all the questions that I have just in the beginning of this video, but make sure you watch the actual tutorial because I'm going to be giving some tips and tricks throughout the entire service as well. And make sure to stick around to the end of the video. We're going to be offering this exclusive map right at the end. As promised, I am taking my beautiful model Rebecca from a classic to a volume lash set today, but because she has about 50% coverage, the end result is going to look very much like that of a hybrid. As you can see, the lashes are still looking light and natural. Actually, this is what Rebecca likes. So we are not looking for drama out of volume whatsoever. We're just looking for a fluffy, light, natural finish. And that's the beauty of volume. It doesn't have to be super dramatic. It can be as natural as you want. So step number 1 would be our consultation. So again, her lashes do look very natural, but they're quite curly on the outer corners. Let's talk about that for a second. So I have done Rebecca's lashes, I don't know, maybe like
100 times perhaps. And I know her lashes well, very, very well. But Rebecca took a bit of a break from lashes and she ended up getting a lash lift. So although decurl on the outer corners normally looks wonderful, it's not too dramatic on her because of her lash lift. Even though it's about 6-ish weeks old, it still is quite lifted. So this is a nice little pro tip. If you are ever taking over a client who you're used to working on and they have a lash lift, you might want to bump down that curl, because I made the mistake of not doing that last time and now her lashes are a little bit too dramatic. So that brings me to what are we going to change for this set. So we're going to take her from, as I've said, a D curl to a C curl because her lashes are already lifted. Now this doesn't mean that I can't take her back to a D curl once that lash lift is gone. We're going to assess and consult at every single appointment that follows to see what we want to do. But today I am going 100% C curl. I'm working with all pre-made fans, Lost Artistry Lash of course. Actually, our short stem small trays are 50% off right now. So if you want to play around with some pre-fans, this is the time to do it. We're blowing out our small trays. Nothing wrong with them. It's just time for them to go. We're moving to bigger trays. So anyhow, that's what I'm working with today, all 3D C curl. And the question often is, will the C curl blend with the D curl? The answer is yes. However, it's important to be open and honest with our clients if we are switching. Why? Because this fill is going to look much different than the next fill. As those lashes that are already applied fall off and new ones grow, we're going to achieve a different finish every time. So next set will look a lot more closer to that C curl. So it's going to be a fun, new, exciting journey, and she's going to get something different every single time. But again, really important to be open and honest with your clients. Sometimes when we mix curls, it can look a little bit different than we had anticipated, and that's okay. Just again, letting your clients know that. Now, let's take a close look at the lashes. So one of the most important things to factor in when we're moving from a classic to a volume is that the eyes are already balanced. So let's say Rebecca didn't have balance between the eyes. She does, so she's not the most ideal candidate for showing what negative impact it could have, because her lashes are already balanced really nicely. But sometimes clients will come in and say the inner corner on one side will have no lashes, or the outer corner on the other side will have no lashes. So if this was the case, I would have to go in and either remove some classics along the way to balance them out, or add some in. So I do not have to do that today. The eyes, as you can see, are very, very similar. But if I had to, then that would be a very important step. Isn't something that we'd want to switch, because volume does look quite different than classic. So we do need balance and symmetry between the eyes. So let's get to work.